When you think of Chicago basketball, your mind probably jumps straight to the Bulls, right? Of course it does. But their story isn't the whole story. We're going to dive into the history of Chicago's first pro basketball team, a team whose sudden collapse created a ripple effect that literally changed the NBA forever.
So let me ask you, before Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, before all those championships, another team was repping Chicago on the hardwood. Any idea who they were? If you're drawing a blank, hey, don't worry, you are definitely not alone.
All right, here they are. Meet the Chicago Stags. For 4 short years, from 1946 to 1950, they were Chicago's team in the BAA, that's the Basketball Association of America, which would very soon become the NBA we all know. They had a cool logo, they were a winning team, and then, poof, they just vanished.
Yeah, the Stags only stuck around for 4 seasons. But get this, the way they fell apart sent these massive shockwaves through the league. And in doing so, they accidentally set the stage for one of the greatest dynasties in the history of sports.
To really understand their impact, you have to go back to their beginning, which was, honestly, incredibly impressive. The Stags didn't just join this new league, they basically kicked the door in.
I mean, they were good right out of the gate. We're talking about the league's very first season, and they weren't just competing, they were a powerhouse. They finished with the best record in their division after winning a nail-biter of a tiebreaker game. This was a serious team from day one.
And that division title? Totally legit. They battled all the way through the playoffs, and suddenly there they were, competing for the league's first ever championship. Can you imagine that? Your first year of existence, and you're playing for it all?
But this is where the Cinderella story ends. They ran headfirst into the Philadelphia Warriors, who just took over the series and won the championship 4-1. The Stags had climbed all the way to the summit, only to fall just short of the peak.
So, after that amazing debut, what came next? Well, the Stags kind of settled into a pattern. They were always good, a team you had to take seriously, but they could never quite make it back to the finals.
And you can see that pattern right here, clear as day, for their entire existence. Every single season, a winning record. Every single season, they're in the playoffs. They were a consistent force. But you can also see the trend, right? They kept getting knocked out a little bit earlier each year. Always a contender, but never the champion.
And this is where the story takes a sharp, dramatic turn. Because, despite being a perennial playoff team, the entire organization just crumbled in the blink of an eye.
The collapse happened so fast it's hard to believe. In June of 1950, a new owner comes in. By August, the team even has a new name. But by September, the whole deal just completely falls apart. And in October, right before the season was about to start, the Chicago Stags just ceased to exist. 4 months. That's all it took to go from a fresh start to total collapse.
Now, this wasn't some quiet business failure. This was a messy public fight. The new owner, Abe Saperstein, claimed the league took his money but gave him, and I'm quoting here, exactly nothing in return. It was just a chaotic and really abrupt end for what was a promising team.
But this is where the story gets truly fascinating, because the Stags' sudden death created this completely accidental legacy, and it all revolves around a player who never once wore their uniform. That's right, you heard me. The most significant contribution the Chicago Stags ever made to the history of the NBA came from a guy they had on their roster for just a brief moment on paper, right before they folded.
So here's the incredible twist of fate. Right before they collapsed, the Stags got the draft rights to a rookie guard named Bob Cousy. Then the team folds, so all their players get thrown into what's called a dispersal draft. And the team that ends up picking Bob Cousy? The Boston Celtics.
And that one single move changed everything. Bob Cousy would go on to become a Hall of Famer, the point guard for a Celtics team that absolutely dominated the NBA for more than a decade. And it all happened because Chicago's first basketball team suddenly went belly up.
You know, the Stags aren't completely forgotten, though. The Chicago Bulls have paid tribute to them, which is pretty cool. They wore these replica Stags jerseys during the 2005-06 season. A nice little nod that connects the city's basketball past and present.
So we end with this question. Just think about it. What if that sale hadn't fallen through? Bob Cousy would have been a Chicago Stag. Would the Celtics dynasty have ever happened? Would the Bulls even exist today? It's a fascinating thought, how one team's collapse completely reshaped the history of the game.